The Brain, the Senses, and Sexual Arousal by Michelle Williams. In what way does the brain influence sexual arousal? The brain plays an important role in our sexuality. The brain has complex mechanisms, thoughts, emotions, and memories. Some of the influencing factors: our brain's capacity to create images and fantasies, our emotions, various sensory processes, hormones, the level of intimacy between two people, and much more are all aspects that stimulate arousal within the brain. Response to sexual stimulation relies primarily on biological factors and events associated with human sexual arousal and response. Next, we'll explore some of the areas of the brain that determine one's sexual preference. The cerebral cortex is the outer layer of the brain's cerebrum that controls higher mental processes, including sexual fantasies. The limbic system, a subcortical brain system composed of several interrelated structures that influences the sexual behavior of humans. This region of the brain is associated with emotions and motivation and is essential in sexual function. The cerebral cortex and limbic system play important roles in initiating, organizing, and controlling sexual arousal and response. Expression of our sexuality is determined by a complex interplay or interaction among social, emotional, and cognitive factors, hormones, brain neurons, and spinal reflexes. Neurotransmitters are chemicals that transmit messages in the nervous system, influence sexual arousal and response by their effect. One of those are dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter that facilitates sexual arousal and activity. The other is serotonin, which inhibits sexual arousal and activity. Next, I will cover the senses related to sexual arousal. The first and most obvious is touch, which tends to dominate during sexual intimacy. The erogenous zones are areas of the body that are particularly responsive to stimulation. The primary erogenous zones contain dense concentrations of nerve endings, making them particularly sensitive. These areas include the genitals, the buttocks, perineum, breasts, particularly the nipples, inner thighs, armpits, navel, neck, earlobes, mouth, including the lips, tongue, and the entire oral cavity. Although these areas are the primary erogenous zones, stimulating them does not guarantee this will produce arousal. The secondary erogenous zones are areas that become sensitive through learning and experience. Vision is also a very important aspect of sexual arousal within our society. Evidence warns that wearing the right clothing, personal grooming, and the extensive use of cosmetics is a reflection of the importance of the visual aspect of sexual arousal. The popularity of such things as men's magazines suggests that the human male is more aroused by visual stimuli than is the female. Early research supports this conclusion. Kinsey found a greater number of men than women were aroused by visual stimuli. For example, pin-up models in magazines and stag shows were more popular amongst males. Cultural conditioning influences sense that both males and females find arousing. We learn to view specific odors as erotic or offensive. Genital secretions would be naturally exciting to humans if it were not for conditioning that teaches us to view our natural sense as offensive. We disguise our natural sense by frequent bathing, perfumes, deodorants, and antiperspirants. Females secrete a substance called pheromones during fertile periods. Two anatomically distinct sites in the human nose are receptive to these pheromones. These areas transmit neural messages to the brain, and these sites detect and respond to the pheromones. Taste is an area of sexual arousal that has not fully yet been investigated, however, is believed to play only a minor role in sexual arousal. It's largely influenced by industry advertisements promoting items such as breath mints and flavored vaginal products, causing individuals to become self-conscious to taste relating to sexual activities. Hearing is the final sense relating to sexual arousal. Whether quiet or loud and verbal during sexual activity is variable, as is each partner's response. While some may find words, intimate or erotic conversations, moans, and orgasmic moans extremely arousing, others may prefer their partner silent during sexual intercourse. Some may feel embarrassed and make conscious efforts to suppress spontaneous outbursts during sex. Men in particular are extra cautious to not talk or groan during arousal. However, talking to one another during sex can be both informative and helpful. This concludes my video on the topic of the brain, the senses, and sexual arousal. I hope you've enjoyed it and it's been informative. Thank you.